them started. See, I decided to start out with the guitar because everybody always says I look like I don't know what's going on at the beginning of the streams. So there we go. There's the guitar. It's a good way to enter in. That'll be my new thing or something. So a lot of thoughts about the Beatles documentary. I've been talking to my friends about it, and you guys can see my John Lennon painting right there once again. And thank you for watching my video on the documentary and for watching my Tommy Emmanuel video that came out this week. And frankly, for all the interview videos that have done so well with Pat Metheny, with Ron Carter, with Brian May, with Sting, with Tommy Emmanuel. I mean, these have been kind of a new thing on the channel. I've been doing interviews since the beginning of the channel, but not in this particular way. I'm very psyched about it, and thank you for those, for people that have supported the channel. I'm extending my Christmas sale or my Black Friday sale for 2 more days through tomorrow night at midnight. I had a lot of people write to me that want to give this as a Christmas present. And, said, oh, I'm not getting paid till Friday or whatever. So I extended it till tomorrow night. So if you just go to beatoblackfriday.com, you'll find the link to the sale. It's everything that I've ever put out as far as educational content, my ear training course, my Beato book 4.0, my quick lessons guitar program, and then my 90 PDFs, transcription PDFs. It's like, between the Beato book and the PDFs, there's 700 plus pages, something like that. I mean, a lot. I mean, this is a lot of stuff altogether. And I'm not going to run the sale again until next year. That's why it's on the beatoblackfriday.com website. Okay, so let's talk about some of these things that... one of the things that I said in my video was that during the making of this, when the Beatles broke up, no one had turned 30 yet. And a couple of people said, oh, yeah, Ringo was 30. Well, he wasn't actually. Paul McCartney quit the band. He sent out a letter and a press release on April 10th, 1970, that he was leaving the band. Okay. Ringo turned 30 on July 7th, so 3 months later or so. Lennon didn't turn 30 until October 9th. I had gotten his birth date wrong in the video. I said October 8th. I apologize for that, for you Beatles fans. So to give you some perspective on when they were making this video in January of 1969, okay? So during the making of this video, Ringo was 28, not yet 29. John Lennon was 28. Paul was 26, not even 27. And George was 25. Okay? This is unbelievable. Think about that. When Abbey Road came out, John and Ringo were 29. Paul was 28 or 20, what was he, 27? He was born in 1962. These guys were kids. I mean, I say kids, but they didn't look like kids. They were grown men. They had experienced so much life. They sure didn't look like they were that age, right? If you think of people nowadays living in their parents' basement at 28, the Beatles had been through so much. And I want to talk about kind of the little bit about the history of the Beatles and their recording career, and just to put things in perspective. And I'll give you an example of somebody I interviewed recently. Sting was 27 when the first Police record came out. So Sting was 27. He was born in 1951. First Police record came out in 1978. Andy Summers was born in 1942. Okay, so he was 36, 35. when the first Police record came out. He's going to be 79. I think it's December 31st of this month. Andy Summers from the Police will be 79. Same age as Paul McCartney. That's pretty profound. So Sting, when he did Roxanne on the first record, was the same age as, Paul was younger. Okay. he was in between John and Ringo, and George and John and Ringo were a year older than Sting on the first Police record. Okay. When the Beatles played in Hamburg in 1960 to 62, when they were playing all those gigs, George Harrison was 17. When the Beatles' first record came out in 1962, Please Please Me. So I wrote this stuff down. So John, it came out March of 1963, Please Please Me. John was 22, Ringo was 22, Paul was 19, and George was 19. Paul was not yet 20. Okay. On Revolver, that's like halfway through the Beatles. John was 26, Ringo was 26, Paul was 23, almost 24, and George was 23. Now, I just looked this up. In 1965, okay, during one calendar year, so if I look at the Beatles discography, this is really unbelievable. You can go to the Beatles discography at Wikipedia, and it gives you both the releases of the records that came out in the UK and the US releases, which are different. I mean, they are different. They have studio albums, 13 studio albums, like kind of official studio albums. Okay, so if you start with Help, okay, so Help was released in the UK on August 6, 1965. All right. Then in December of 1965, December 3rd, the Beatles released Rubber Soul. So this is astounding. Between August and December, the Beatles wrote and recorded Rubber Soul. Okay. Then on June 20th of 1966, 6 months later, they released Yesterday and Today. Okay. Then on August 8th, Yesterday and Today, June 20th. Yes. Then on August 8th, 1966, they released Revolver. Okay. So let's see, Yesterday and Today. So this was the UK release, June 15th, 1966. So that was track listing. Drive My Car, I'm Only Sleeping, Nowhere Man. Okay, some of these songs are kind of in between. Some of these songs were off Revolver. It was kind of a combination of these two different records here. Day Tripper. So there were some singles that were released. Yesterday, Act Naturally, We Can Work It Out. So some of these songs were part of were singles, and they were put on this record. But essentially, during one calendar year, 365 days, we had Help, we had Yesterday and Today, which is some like a collection with singles. We had Rubber Soul, and we had Revolver. So that's writing and recording. So think about it. Listen to and these are really finished records, right? If you think about the Rubber Soul, right? You have Eleanor Rigby, so the string quartet. So that arrangement was written by George Martin. So that had to be put in. That had to be recorded. They had to bring in the people to make the record. These guys were writing these things. So you think about how they did Get Back and those 3-4 weeks in January of 1969. Well, these guys were doing this all the time. Full-time job, and they toured. I think they stopped touring in 65, 66. And they stopped touring because they couldn't hear themselves, and they didn't really have proper PA systems then. So it was kind of pointless to them to go out and tour because people screamed so loudly that they couldn't hear themselves play. And they were using massively big amplifiers, but they were playing Shea Stadium, right? These things couldn't, they couldn't make it over their vocals couldn't make it over this with the small PAs they had, couldn't make it over the deafening sound of the crowd. So they became a studio band, but they worked like they did during Get Back, definitely more functional than they were then, and made those records, right? So let's go back and let's look at Rubber Soul. So on Rubber Soul, it was their 6th studio record, right? So they on Rubber Soul, just to remind people what the songs were on it. So we have where's our track listing? I should be able to go right through these and name these, but hold on. So let's see here, track listing. Here we go. Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, You Won't See Me, Nowhere Man, Think for Yourself, George Harrison song, The Word, Michelle, What Goes On, Girl, I'm Looking Through You, love that song, In My Life, man, one of the best songs ever, Wait, If I Needed Someone, Run for Your Life. These are the songs that were on the British release of this. But think about those songs, right? So those, I'll go back to Help so people remember. This was the soundtrack of the movie Help, right? And came out August 6, 1965, right? So let's see, track listing. Help, The Night Before, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. Oh, man, amazing song. I Need You, George Harrison. Another Girl, You're Gonna Lose That Girl. One of my favorite Beatles songs I haven't thought of in a long time. Ticket to Ride. Act Naturally was a cover. It's Only Love. You Like Me Too Much, Harrison. Tell Me What You See. I've Just Seen a Face. Another one of my favorite Beatles songs. Yesterday. So that was on Help. So some of these things, the Yesterday and Today record was a combination of things, right? And then the Dizzy Miss Lizzy cover that happened. Okay, and then if you go back to Revolver, which came out after Rubber Soul, let's see what songs are on Revolver. So we're going to, and this was released August 5th, 1966. Right, so 1 year, almost to the day after Help. And so we had on this record, Taxman opened the record, George Harrison's song. Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping. Love to You, George Harrison. Here, There, and Everywhere, once again, one of the finest Beatles songs. Yellow Submarine, She Said, She Said, which is a John Lennon song, which is one of my absolute most favorite Beatles songs. Incredible song. Good Day Sunshine, one of Paul McCartney's just fantastic songs. And Your Bird Can Sing, John Lennon's song, which is amazing. You should, if you don't know that, you should check it out. For No One, Paul McCartney. Dr. Robert, that was a Lennon song. I Want to Tell You, Harrison. Got to Get You Into My Life, McCartney. And then they rounded out with Tomorrow Never Knows. Come on. My God. They recorded and wrote all these songs within 365 days. And this is a far more finished record than the Get Back, Rooftop sessions and the Let It Be record, which, half the songs were recorded live with no vocal overdubs, just them singing live. It's astounding, right? Think of this. Those guys, when they broke up, no one had turned 30 years old. I mean, it's really, it kind of bends my mind. I'm a massive Beatles fan, okay? You guys, everybody knows that watches this channel, knows that. The fact that I can't play any Beatles music on my channel because they block everything, which I think, once again, is ridiculous, but whatever. I would have made, it's probably good because people would be sick of my Beatles videos that I made, right? But just to think about this, think in this movie, when they were making that documentary, George Harrison was 25 in that. 25. He hadn't turned 26 yet. Paul was 26. Ringo and John were 28. I mean, these guys had done so much by then. And then later that year, they recorded Abbey Road, right? Well, what was on Abbey Road? Think about this. I mean, honestly, the best songs on Abbey Road were George Harrison's songs, as far as I'm concerned. And I love Abbey Road, but come on, okay? You can't really track listing. Come Together, Something, one of the greatest songs ever written, George Harrison, Maxwell's Silver Hammer. Oh, Darling, you heard some of these songs in the movie. They were working on them. So these songs were recorded just months later. Octopus's Garden, Ringo, is he working on that in the movie? I think he is, yeah, with George at the piano. I Want You, She's So Heavy, great song. Here Comes the Sun, one of the top songs ever written. Because John Lennon, oh my God, the vocal harmonies in that, I heard that he wrote that after listening to Beethoven, after, that he was inspired and wrote that. Those have some of the most sophisticated harmonies that were ever done, You Never Give Me Your Money, oh man. Sun King, Me, Mr. Muster. Then you have the whole medley that goes on at the end, including Golden Slumbers, Carry That Way, and then The End, and then Her Majesty, the little hidden track. But The End is one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs. I did What Makes a Song Great on that. So, how do you get great at writing songs? By writing songs and by recording them. This is how you get better. And the Beatles' vocabulary increased. They knew so many cover songs. And it's just like this whole idea of learning music theory or learning how chord progressions go together. This is why I developed my courses. I'll give you my plug again. I've got everything on sale here that I've ever created. My ear training course, my music theory book, my Beato book, my guitar quick lessons course. It just is a nonlinear conceptual video course with 5 hours of video content. And my 90 PDFs that are basically transcriptions of a lot of my YouTube videos and my Instagram videos, some of my Instagram videos. So if you think about this, why do you learn this stuff? Some people say, you see, the Beatles they didn't know how to read or do anything like that. And they wrote all these great songs. It's like the Beatles developed a vocabulary of sounds, of chord voicings, of chord progressions. They knew 1,000 cover songs, something like that. You saw they could play them without mistakes in the Get Back video. They knew all the lyrics. They knew the harmony parts. If it was 3-part harmonies, they could sing them. They knew so much music theory, whether they could name the things or not, it doesn't matter. Music theory is just naming things. I learned music theory when I was in college, but I knew the stuff. I knew the sounds of it. Then I was just learning the names. But then with the ear training, that's really the thing that helps, is being able to recognize these chord progressions. And this is what the Beatles were masters at. Those couple years in Hamburg, when they were learning cover songs to play their 8-hour sets, that's all ear training. They didn't have YouTube to go to. They didn't have Tab. They listened to the records. They learned the 3-part harmonies. They learned the chord progressions. And the songs they were learning back then, yeah, some of them were 3 and 4 chord songs, but a lot of them had augmented chords, diminished chords. And when you get to the later Beatles, this is what you're having. You have all these line cliches. You have very sophisticated chord progressions. If you think of songs like Strawberry Fields or Across the Universe. I mean, not every, Here Comes the Sun. These things are really sophisticated. It takes a great ear to come up with them. And it takes a great ear to figure them out. The Beatles songs are some of the hardest songs to figure out by ear. In my life, man, all these inverted chords and things like that. If you don't have a good ear, you can't figure out these songs. You can figure out simple versions of them, but you can't figure them out because some of the songs, some of the chord voicings are like A major over G, like A major thing with a G in the bass. You'll never figure out those inversions like that. Some of the stuff in Ticket to Ride, Harrison on I Me Mine, with the line cliches, things like that. When I say line cliches, I won't play it. I'll get my video demonetized. Line cliches like Stairway to Heaven, but before Stairway to Heaven, the Beatles were doing these things all the time, right? So this is just mind bending to me that they could come up with all this stuff like that. But it was through experimentation, constant experimentation, right? They didn't want to write the same thing. So what did they do? They had to learn new chord progressions. They had to invent new things. Paul McCartney, when he did Penny Lane, he said to George Martin he had heard a Bach, the Brandenburg Concerto, the second Brandenburg Concerto that has a Bach trumpet, really high trumpet part. And so he said, could we put something like that in Strawberry Fields? And George Martin's like, yeah, no problem. So George wrote out this part, which was a really high trumpet part that's played, that's very challenging in that recording. That must have been one of the trumpet player from the London Philharmonic or something, or London Symphony. I'm sorry, London Symphony that must have played it. But really sophisticated stuff like that. They were using these things. I think that they talked about John Cage. I think they talked about John Cage in the video. They knew modern classical music. They listened to everything, those guys, because they were constantly trying to get new ideas to, I think, one-up each other. Every one of them. It wasn't just Lennon versus McCartney. It was George and it was Ringo. And by the end, George was topping those guys. He was besting them on those. The Something and Here Comes the Sun. Those were the top songs on that record, I think. And if I look at Spotify, the most listened to songs, I bet those songs are. I'll look at. Let me see the Beatles here. What are their top songs? Here Comes the Sun. That's the most played song of the Beatles on Spotify, right? Then Let It Be is second. Come Together, Yesterday, Hey Jude. But honestly, Here Comes the Sun has about twice as many listens as any Beatles song. So in the end, George Harrison, even though he quit during the making of Let It Be, he ended up writing after that, after quitting the band and then coming back, he ended up writing the two best songs, in my opinion. And that's saying a lot on Abbey Road. So, way to go, George. I mean, that's amazing. And George had so many songs saved up. But, these guys had unbelievably great ears. They could figure out stuff. They didn't make mistakes. I mean, yeah, they would experiment a lot, but when it came to the Rooftop concert, my God, it was amazing. The no monitors, no in-ears, no nothing, just singing with the microphones outdoors. It was like 45 degrees out that day. That's why they're wearing those heavy coats, right? You could see their breath. That's how cold it was. It was in the 40s. It was January. It's like the middle of January in London. Freezing. No problem. I watched somebody sent me, one of my friends sent me some live performance from 1965, and it was the Stones were on it. It was like an award show or something. The Beatles played like 5 songs, and they came out and they played, I forget what the first song was, maybe Ticket to Ride, or maybe that was the last song. But the first song, George and Paul's mic was not working, and they realized it, and Paul just went over to John's mic and was singing the background vocals. They just knew. They could tell they couldn't hear it out in the mains. And he went there, and they're singing on the same mic and just killing it. So in tune, these harmonies, and the blend of the voices. Their voices. I watched an interview with Glenn Johns, who was in the movie, and he made the best point about it. He engineered the record, the Let It Be record, and he said that They had three completely distinct voices. John Lennon had a very nasally voice, right? Paul McCartney had this high tenor voice, open with, they could all sing with great distortion. And George Harrison had a completely different, very mid-range, lower voice. That blend was so unique. This is what made the Beatles sound so unique, was the blend of the three. And Glenn Johns, who worked with the Eagles, produced a couple of the Eagles' biggest records. He mentioned this about the Eagles, that those voice combinations are what really made those harmonies sound like they did. There's just, nowadays you get the same person, that the lead singer will sing the same harmony parts, and that's why it sounds like a synthesizer, especially when you auto-tune everything. But having three different voices, not auto-tune, that have completely different timbres singing together gives you a massive sound. Just like in Queen, same thing. When I did the breakdown of Bohemian Rhapsody, when you get those three vocals together, the three voices don't sound anything alike, And they give this unique blend. And this is something for people out there making their own songs. Get your friends to come in and sing harmonies if you can. If you want your choruses to sound bigger, this is a way to do it, right? Get the blend of different timbres of voices. If you're a guy, get a female singer to come in. If you're a female vocalist, get one of your guy friends to come in to sing with you. Or get people that have different register voices, different sounding voices, and learn how to blend together. Because that's a really great way to get your vocals to sound massively big. Different tonalities. That's why you don't want to double the same guitar part with the same sound on both sides. It's the same concept. Okay. Once again, you want to improve yourself as a musician? Check out my Black Friday, BeatoBlackFriday.com. Go to there. You can get all my stuff that I've ever put out, and for less than what my ear training course would normally cost. My ear training, my Beato book, music theory book, my quick lessons guitar course, and my 90 PDFs. It's more than 90 pages. It's like, 200 pages or something like that, PDFs. But the sale's going on through tomorrow night. I extended it for people that asked me about things for Christmas sales that got paid on Friday. So that's going on till tomorrow night at midnight Eastern time, and then I'm turning it off till next year. Once again, thank you everybody for watching all the videos. This, all these interviews and things like that. I got some great interviews planned coming up. So you guys are the best. We'll see you later.